You're not going to carry on?
No.
Okay. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Boys Gone Wild. Wowzers, wow in my powsers. Jesus Christ, we're going again. This is happening. This is real. Pinch yourself. We're here. The boys are back in town. We're ready to give you another spicy episode of Boys Gone Wild. Annoyingly, the biggest event of this year did happen 2 hours after we recorded our last podcast, which means it's literally, for a topical news podcast, this is what's called in the business as a fucking nightmare, because it means that our reactions to the attack, the brutal attack, people are calling it the second 9/11 that happened in the capital, we're going to wait 10 days to respond to it. But we're here. I think the takes are going to be so spicy, so stanky that we'll make up for lost time. And I feel we've now had time to ruminate like a rich steak that you've put salt, pepper, thyme, rosemary, butter. You've let it sink in. It's going to taste richer, and we're going to be all the happier for it. How are you, Andrew?
Speaking of unfortunate timings of things, I realised that I missed out a story that happened to me.
Oh, yeah?
A few weeks back in a pre-lockdown Britain, if you can cast your minds back to such a pre-topian. Is there a...
No, I think there's space for you to really push forward with that, though.
A pre-topian world. I had 3 of my lady friends over, friends of the ladies, and they were all sitting
Sounds
round.
like a harem. Do you want to make it sound less...
There were 3 of my friends.
Less like you're a sexist womanizer?
No, because they're purely my friends who are women.
See, yes.
I think only a sexist womanizer would call up on that use of language.
I'm just saying, with your reputation and your consistent conversations about sex and your no shame at all in being libidinally charged.
Well, this story isn't going to suit me that well, then.
No.
So they were over, and it's 3 of my platonic female friends.
Okay.
And I was entertaining them at the house.
Someone got friend zone, triple time.
Yeah, it's a fucking nightmare out here. So I try to end the friend zone with it. But what happened was the 3 of them were sitting lying there. I was on good form. You know, the jokes were going well.
Can I give a tiny bit of context?
Yeah.
Is that Andrew does like to crack jokes, and he can be quite reserved with people he doesn't know, but as soon as it's in big spaces in public, but as soon as it's like a small room with people he knows very, very well, then it's really quite a wild sight, because he has more confidence than genuinely anyone I've ever seen comedically. And I'm in the comedy world, I see stand-ups all the time, and I've never seen anyone with more confidence comedically than Andrew in a small room with people he knows very, very well. It's terrifying, to be honest, because he does every single bit he goes for so hard. If it's funny or not, you have to laugh, because it's like, you're scared he might kill you, not even out of insecurity, just because that energy has to go somewhere. But anyway, carry on.
So in that light, the conversation went somewhere, and I can't remember where, but it isn't actually important, because the joke that I decided to do was pull a Moonie in front of these 3
Do you have no
women.
idea what the context
No,
was?
and there was no context. That was part of it, was that,
You were drinking a bit and you got a bit excited.
I'd only had one beer at that point.
You hadn't seen your friends for a while.
Yeah, well, I guess I'd only had one. It wasn't an alcohol thing. I had only had one beer, and then I was like, right, this is the time to execute the jugular here. So then the 3 of them were literally sitting on the other side of the room to me. So I just then pulled my trousers down and partially mooned them. As I thought,
partially?
A good half, maybe 3/4. You can't remember them when you're in the flow.
Sort of vibe.
Yeah. I'm kind of expecting a raucous, haha, he's just showed us his bum.
Yeah, because it's so outrageous. I mean, it's probably not the most well-crafted joke.
No, God, it's childish.
It's the shock value, isn't it?
Yeah, I just went...
It's the shock value of you being there, and before you know it, you're looking at your eyes.
I just done some cutting satire on the NHS and various other kind of, intellectual jokes. I thought now it's time to give the audience the full scope of what I can bring to this entertainment. And none of them laughed. Zero of them reacted in any way. So it wasn't even it wasn't shock, because they all knew, I guess they all knew me well enough and had probably seen my bum at one point, and it wasn't like a ridiculously insane thing to do. But so then I found myself with my trousers down, facing the other way, and then hearing silence behind me. as this is going on. And so that was that. It was a failed attempt at a kind of different kind of approach to me.
Yeah, but because it must be quite a weird. You probably didn't plan for the idea of getting no laughs.
No, you'd either expect
shock, horror, or
Like,
like at
what are you
least a
doing?
reaction. But indifference.
silence.
That's the worst you
wouldn't
can hope
wish.
for. If
I
you're
wouldn't-
mooning,
Yeah.
the last reaction you
Is
want is indifference.
I wouldn't wish for my worst enemy to have his trousers down in front of 3 women who just aren't reacting in any way whatsoever.
It's brutal.
It's
How
very.
did you do it? So,
Well, I just pulled my trousers up at the end of it, and then
what's your expression when you're pulling it up?
I think I went. Well, that didn't go
Did you
well.
scuttle off?
I scuttled off. Yeah. Well, I was like, I need to go get a
Did
drink.
they
now, I
not
guess.
stop their conversation?
I think they kind of. It was one where they were like, yeah, talking, then looked. Then yeah, I couldn't continue the conversation.
Yeah.
But so that happened to me quite a few weeks ago, but we forgot to recap that. And I mean,
None of the girls were like fully.
well, it was never brought up after.
None of the girls were fully English.
Yeah. Oh no, not fully. No,
So I wonder if it's like maybe we come from families where.
where that doesn't happen.
Well,
whereas
it's like
they're used to families who do.
no,
that.
no. I think maybe it's like we come from a more slapstick tradition.
Yeah. Oh, so they just. But then you'd expect shock.
That's true.
You'd expect a reaction.
Yeah, but it's
not
also-
one of them to have any kind of reaction.
But the thing is, with the audiences you play to, and normally people who know you very, very well, and the downside of those audiences is that they're sick of your shit.
Yeah, true.
So it means,
And that was, yeah, I guess you can only fake laugh so much until you then just have to show indifference to try and get it discouraged.
Well, I'm sure they're like
It's mania.
because you do get your ass out a lot, and it's funny. It's a comedy ass. To
that
be fair.
much.
No, you get
I?
your bum out. I can literally get a picture of you standing here with your ass out if you feel comfortable.
Okay, well, that's just one time. Yeah, you can show it, yeah.
And it's a funny bum because it's
It's quite a feminine.
it's quite a feminine bum because it's like round like a drawing of a cartoon boy. You know, it's a very boy's ass.
Yeah.
Where it's like a kind of perfect little half sphere.
Yeah,
And
it's-
it's got no hair on it.
it's
And
plump.
it's almost like if it wasn't so
It's a plump little
Caucasian, it would
picture
have a
boy.
bit of shine to it. 'Cause
Yeah,
It's like, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I should maybe start adding some cocoa butter on it or something just to really add to the
Yeah,
flavour
it could
of what we're
easily be
going for.
shined up. Whereas, like me, I have like a non-existent ass, where it's like I
Yeah,
might
you're
as
like,
well.
you're like bony skeleton.
Yeah,
boy.
from my neck to the back of my heel is a
Yeah.
straight line. There's no.
Yeah, true. Well,
So I never get my ass out for comedy because it's not a funny ass. It's upsetting, if anything.
yeah, because even if it was the perfect point, if all the stars aligned and it was the perfect time to do a moon joke,
Yeah.
people would still be repulsed by your ass. No, I get it. I understand.
Because
It.
you're a hairless boy. He's like a
Yeah,
swimmer. But it's natural. There's no shaving
Yeah.
really going on. It's like you're pretty much streamlined. Whereas I'm a very hairy man.
Yeah, you're a hairy boy.
And that's one of the many big differences. Big balls, small cock. Big cock, small balls. Catty dad, messy slut.
Hairy
hairless.
no hair. Yeah.
So now we're kind
We're
of
starting
getting
to
more to
put
the
these
heart
into
of
the-
what
into the
is
picture.
the dynamic, what's the potential. And people say it's like, oh my God, there's so little diversity on Boys Gone Wild. It's just two, white, privately educated boys. Oh God, we've
Well,
seen
how'd you
this
like
before.
them apples?
Yeah, well, I'm hairy. He's
And I'm
hairless.
hairless.
So we've got some diversity.
So what are you
on
talking
here.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got acid reflux, and
Well,
I have
yeah.
I have bladder problems. So
Yeah.
it's like there's diversity of
Throat and
ailments.
bladder. They're the two, yeah. Although we might not be diversified from the external point of view.
No, sure.
Internally, we're two both horribly corrupt, but in
It's
very
true.
different ways.
You see all these woke diversity podcasts, which has all the races under the
Yeah.
sun. Do they have someone who has this very variety of balls to dick ratio?
I absolutely don't think so. Are they
so.
frequently talking about the difference of experience for those hairy and hairless? I don't think so either.
Because we have unique experiences in our own lived experience. Like I can talk about the ill talked about lived experience of having an average sized penis and massive balls, and you can talk about having big tiny balls and a big dick, and it's finally getting those stories out there.
Yeah, and it's something that has not really pervaded the discourse at this point in time, and something that we're trying to fill in.
Yeah,
with
when was the last
importance and
time an
urgency.
Oscar, one of the best actor nominees, had a big cock, tiny balls?
Yeah, when did they ever stand up? When did they ever use their platform to talk about those issues instead of racism?
Okay, so Marlon Brando, when he won the Oscar for The Godfather,
Yeah.
he in quite a baller move. He didn't. I don't think he even showed up to the awards.
No, he
ceremony.
didn't.
He got like a Native American woman to go on and talk about the plight of the Native Americans.
Yeah.
It's a classic thing in Hollywood that they use that platform to do very weak and vague,
charitable pledges.
Yeah, like
almost.
vague appeals to empathy.
It does seem
which
to be
more
quite-
like
I enjoy the nicheness of them at times.
they're niches, but they're not that specific in a way. It's nearly always quite vague appeals just to empathy. It's not. It's normally like, guys, can we be nice to each other or some shit? And that's kind of, you can break it down to that. It's normally not. And then then it's a big round of applause. And so you've won an Oscar for Best Actor.
Yes.
You're going up on stage.
Yeah.
What cause are you going to use? You've got 30 seconds, maybe 45. When you've got millions of people watching. This is quite a rare platform of an audience you don't like. These people that they know your views.
They get it.
Yeah, but it's like a relatively niche audience. You've got like a mainstream audience. Who would you be?
A unique chance to kind of tell they use that incredibly diverse platform to talk about an issue. If I was being serious, I think I would like to talk about acid reflux. As in, I think it would be the best because it'll be more like, I like to go up and talk about how I talk to most people about it. I'm just like, it fucking hurts. It's fucking annoying, and I wanted to go up and be like, so I've got acid reflux. It's fucking shit. Like, I know you tell people you have acid reflux, and it sounds a bit disgusting, and people don't really understand what it is, and so you kind of laugh at it. I make jokes out of it all the time because it's the only way you can go forward. But underneath here, in my throat, I'm in pain a lot of the time because of it, and it hurts. It's like this is the speech. It's like if you go to bed, I go to bed. I have to lie on my left hand side at night.
Getting a bit insecure about it as well. It hurts.
It hurts all the time, and like I know there's many people out there who probably
don't look away, Meryl.
Hey, Streep, eyes on me. But so then because this is the thing I'd say if we were to if the podcast was to get successful enough for us to get some ads in.
Sure.
Gaviscon, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Because Gaviscon is the ultimate alleviation of acid reflux.
And you'd be able to sell that product
fantastically.
Because it would be like a real...
Yeah, I mean, it actually works fantastically well. And I'd love to get free Gaviscon products because acid reflux isn't something that goes away.
Yeah, you'd wear Gaviscon t-shirts. You'd wear a Gaviscon jumpsuit.
Absolutely. Like, it's a cause I really fucking believe in.
I think that'd be quite cool. Like a sort of
it's like... because there's good colours.
Wait, if we're thinking of like... Because eventually we're going to make some very dank merch. We just need a couple of you guys to tell your fucking friends about this show. I think like an F1 style jumpsuit, which hasn't really been used enough in like street fashion.
Forget the jumpsuits, just helmets.
No, I like the jumpsuits.
Okay, fine. We're back on the jumpsuits. It's cool. So I was spitballing. There's no such thing as a wrong idea in spitballing.
Don't just say forget the idea I'm talking about.
Forget what you're saying. Helmets.
So you know what you're saying? Ignore all of that. How about this?
Yeah. Of a similar ilk, though. Yeah, go on.
Because jumpsuits are coming to fashion, but there's many different types of jumpsuits. There's kind of like ladies like those kind of denim jumpsuits. Let's get that Formula One style.
Yeah.
I think that looks really hot.
Like very thick and flame retardant.
Yeah, flame retardant is a key aspect because I was talking about this on the fashion podcast I did with BB, where it's like the key aspect of masculine fashion is finding that line between stylish and practical. That's what attractive. So like on one end it's Bear Grylls, it's Ray Mears, and on the other end it's Jaden Smith. Yeah, and like both are too much. But if you find that midpoint is where you find like the best fashion, where it's like for straight men you want to seem like not like it's all ridiculously unpractical. It looks like you've tried too hard.
Yeah, it's about trying.
But you want to do it so it's like it's a bit stylish, but it's like there's a practical element.
There's an element.
So flame retardant jumpsuits with Boys Gone Wild on. Maybe like instead of like Shell and stuff, it's like Gaviscon, like a Gaviscon jumpsuit. Yeah. That would look kind of cool.
And flame retardant.
Flame retardant.
Gaviscon.
Yeah, flame
like
retardant.
acid reflux. Mm-hmm. Their advert is about a fireman who goes and retards the flames. So yeah, that's if Gaviscon are listening, then absolutely we'd take on board that kind of affiliation with you, and I'd enjoy that. But I think the experience of being mooned, mooning someone and it go down has had a significant effect on my mental health.
Because you and I don't know.
Well, it's right. So I've had I've had later shifts recently.
No, okay, so this is once again men's, and I've seen in the comments people talking about like finally it's catching on that people are saying this is a men's mental and physical health podcast. Finally, it's come through.
Yeah,
so
we just have to repeat it enough times.
enough times. I'm just going to get my Birkenstocks, but you go and talk about your brain.
Why are you putting your shoes on for?
Just because it feels unprofessional having my socks on.
Yeah, okay. So I'm not really going to talk about my mental physical health, but what I have, actually no, I am. What I have done is I've had later shifts more recently. I've been on later shifts recently, which has given me the chance to wake up before I start work and have a bit of time in between waking up and starting work.
The depression hours.
Well, for you, when you're up
The
here
sad
wallowing in your tears and looking up at the ceiling. But I've chosen to push off the depression hours by watching more morning TV.
Okay.
So like this morning on ITV.
Yeah.
And that has also coincided with finishing work, being quite tired and it being late. And I've got like a 3-hour period before I want to be asleep. So I've been chucking on some blockbusters. You know, but like kind of something like a Christopher Nolan film, or a Tarantino or a Scorsese. So I at the moment I feel like I'm really jumping into the zeitgeist and trying to understand what the public really think and feel.
They're sort of like
start
steak and
my
chips
morning
films.
with Holly Willoughby and Philip Schofield and end it with Scorsese.
Yeah.
So I'm really getting everything involved in.
Yeah, since you've been working like a proper job, you've certainly become more of an everyman. It's an aspect to your
Thank
character that's like means that you can relate to the everyman now because of the work you're doing. You can't watch like weird as shit, so you're now more plugged into what's going on.
I'm exploring the zeitgeist.
Yeah, exactly.
I see myself as an adventurer, like Indiana Jones. Oh, that's a good one to watch, actually.
Yeah, you should watch Indiana Jones. Put it down.
But it's so. Let's start with morning TV.
Okay.
Let's move that morning TV to evening quizzes. Bradley Walsh.
That's a link.
Hey!
It's a bit fucking contrived.
Bradley Walsh is a cunt. I am okay. I don't know.
It's bold words.
He's a
national treasure, but
if that's a national treasure, then I don't want to know what's in the Book of Secrets. Oh.
What's the Book of Secrets?
National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Oh, okay.
That's actually quite good.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. The Book of Secrets?
Yeah, National Treasure Book of Secrets.
Is that what's called?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Imagine calling something a Book of Secrets.
So, we discussed on the... You're very fidgety today. We discussed on the podcast a few... maybe a couple of weeks ago, the people who say on Instagram, I don't know who needs to hear this, but... This would be the only thing that I would ever say.
I don't know.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but
yeah.
Bradley Walsh is a cunt. And if The Chase is a very popular quiz show that many people will watch, and often Facebook and social media feeds are jammed with, "Did you see this clip of Bradley when he laughs because the word poo is in a question?"
Okay.
And he plays off the silly, everyday, ha-ha-ha, dad joke man.
Sure.
In between that, he's a cunt. Now, if you look closely at The Chase, what he does, and this is my pet peeve about what people do when you have, like, if you're playing a board quiz game or something like that.
You can make this gripe of the week.
Yeah, this is... I could go for the whole hour on this.
Okay.
So, if you, like, on a board, if you're playing a quiz with family or friends, and someone's asking the question, and the other team, so if you're answering the question, someone on the other team, the question's just been answered. Someone on the other team is going, "Oh, surely you must know this. You must know this. You must know this." The reason they're saying that is because their individual experiences throughout their life have allowed them to know the answer to that question.
Okay.
What they don't understand is that other people's experience might not have brought them to the realization of that question in this fucking family quiz. Yep. It is bitter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is what Bradley Walsh does on his The Chase quiz show.
Oh, really?
He says, "Oh, surely you're going to know this." He's bullied celebrities into actually looking upset on air.
Look, we can take a lot of shit.
Yeah, but leave celebrities out of this. Leave them out of it. So and normal people as well. Everyone, your average Joe and your Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
he doesn't hold anything sacred. And he will shout there. He will stand there shouting, stand, whatever you fucking want to do, suggesting that they're an idiot if they don't know the answer. And then often he gets them wrong himself.
That's not a conducive atmosphere in which to quiz.
I am fascinated about the fact that he's still able to run this show.
Yeah.
Because he's a rude little cunt face. And the jokes are abysmal, and he's like, because he's
That's part of the medium, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
sure,
quiz,
sure,
that's part of the charm.
sure it is. But
It's
he,
like Christmas cracker joke.
yeah, absolutely. But he does them in not a way that he should deliver a dad joke where there's a hint of cheeky, oi oi. He does it with seriousness now, because basically what happened with Bradley Walsh is that he got way too much love and appreciation at the point where the chase was just starting, and he was doing a good job. Now he thinks he's untouchable. He released a Christmas album of opera songs that reached number 2 in the charts, and now
Well,
he thinks...
I mean, that's pretty, if the hypothesis is that he's untouchable.
My question to you
Number
would
2.
be, do you think Bradley Walsh's Christmas opera album could reach number 2 in the charts if he wasn't the cunt from The Chase? No, because Bradley Walsh has no talent.
Well, it's clearly working. If he's getting to number 2,
Yeah,
clearly.
but no, it's not working on merit of his operatic singing. It's on merit of him being that cunt of The Chase.
Is he famously that cunt? Is he like a Piers
that
Morgan
is
figure?
what- no, he's not. People adore him, and if you adore him, you're a cunt too. I'm so fed up of it. Like, I enjoy The Chase because I'm now the everyman.
You go, girl.
Yeah, hell, I'm out here. But the aggression he brings to the show, the pure lack of empathy for anyone's emotions on the show, and his general personality make it an unwatchable quiz show that would otherwise be watchable. I think I'm done.
So, Bradley Walsh, earlier you said that you wouldn't wish an indifferent response to mooning on your worst enemy.
And
does Bradley push that?
Bradley Walsh does that every day on national television.
What, moons?
Metaphorically. Every single
Haven't
night.
seen the show.
Every single night on national television, what he's doing is he's taking down his trousers, and the rest of the British public should be sitting there with indifference. Maybe you're right. Maybe the best way to combat Bradley Walsh and his weapons of mass destruction Those two arse cheeks. The weapons of mass destruction are to not praise him, but nor do what I'm doing and slate him. It's just to be indifferent to the cunt. And then eventually the producers will then realise that he's a hack. He's a washed up, sad little wrinkly fuckface. And that he'll eventually, they'll throw him on the heap.
Okay, so this I don't have much to say because I don't watch The Chase, so I don't know. I've only dipped in and out, and Bradley Walsh doesn't seem to me to be any worse than any of the other
One
ones.
episode is all it will take.
Okay, well, yeah, I've only dipped in and out, and I'm not a fan of Richard Osman, but I'm not going to say anything because he's now the most powerful man in Britain,
In the world.
He is. He's the best-selling author. He's like low key pulling the strings. Like he's our Mr. Hollywood.
You know, he runs his own production company.
Oh, for sure. No, the dude, I'm genuinely... We talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about contentious issues, but I'm not going to slag off Richard Osman on air because I genuinely think it will genuinely terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like, I've said some shit about Ricky Gervais, the stuff like... He's more powerful, Richard Osman, at the moment.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he's that kind of thing where it's like, because he's not hugely famous...
Yeah,
he's like pulling the levers.
He can therefore he has more power to run the strings in the shadows.
Exactly. So there's a lot of fool guys who fall for his. So just keep your eye on Richard, because just looking at the way that power's been distributed, a lot has landed on Richard's lap.
Yeah, and it's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence, but
it's like House of Games.
Yeah,
no, House of Cards. Oh, wow! Yeah. Whatever that means.
Okay, go on.
Well, it's like House of Cards. I said you can imagine a similar, inspired by his life.
No, I read an interview that Kevin Spacey based his performance off Richard Osmond. And like the stories.
Well, the story is based on Richard Osmond, who grew up down the road from us.
Yeah, and Kevin
Richard
Spacey,
Osmond.
he was famous. It was a fall guy, you know. He took the heat for the kind of
and maybe
the long homosexual abuse that happened. Richard Osmond's name didn't appear. Suspicious.
Maybe Richard is now shifting the attention onto Bradley. Now that he's got Kevin Spacey out of the way,
because he's just playing you like a fucking fiddle, mate. Like he runs quizzes. He's the king of quizzes.
He's got me.
That's his that's what. Though he's running everything, quizzes is his bread and butter. So and no one gets on the show or off the show.
He's definitely got a finger in Bradley's pie.
there's no two ways about it. Look, there's no one gets hired for any quiz show in this country without Richard Osman, without a tick from Richard Osman. So I'm interested to see when Bradley Walsh has been around for a while, but I'm interested to see what the master plan is by Richard Osman.
We could be sitting here in 2 years' time and everything be dubbed in Richard Osman.
Doesn't work, but we'll
work.
keep going.
Think
So
about it.
Bradley Walsh, you're not a fan of him. Who do you want to replace Bradley Walsh? Bradley Walsh has an accident. Someone needs to come in and replace him.
Right. So am I right? So I might go for a more left field one. Okay, because I think maybe TV needs a shake up. Wow, what an
Okay.
interesting opinion that is.
Get some more acid reflux.
So I'd like a big washed up star. It's something I think De Niro might consider. Do you know?
Maybe Johnny Depp. He's pretty.
He's too charismatic.
He's-
It's like you can't. He'll steal the show too much, and he's also got some personal issues.
Well, that's what I mean. Washed up. Is it's like,
Oh yeah.
what gigs
well,
you
it's
could
a
get.
joy to see like it's a joy to see washed up actors do adverts for like Calgon on English TV.
Yeah.
David Schwimmer's recently done one for a TSB, an English bank.
Yeah, because it's good because the money's good and it's in English, so they can come to England.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
It stays away from their key
Stays away
market,
from their
which
key
is
market.
the US. But like the way it is,
Kevin Bacon and
Kevin
EE.
Bacon for sure. But like Nicolas Cage did adverts in Japan. That's the way to do it. Like I
Yeah.
feel if I was ever a megastar.
Because it's funny.
Yeah, if I was ever a megastar, I would be looking to do. I would do the trashiest ads if it was in
Yeah.
a different language, because immediately it becomes
What's your
high art.
ideal Japanese ad?
My ideal Japanese ad would be for something like a mainstream pop version of Viagra.
Oh,
like
great,
kind
yeah,
of like,
yeah.
ooh, yeah, ooh.
And then three schoolgirls going,
That's my dream advert.
okay. and
It's
you
me
wanna-
like, oh no. Oh. Then it goes down my gut like a Gaviscon advert, like the X-ray.
yeah.
And then it comes up
a
like
rocket
Godzilla
comes
and
up.
it destroys Tokyo.
But yeah, first off, people are impressed and then they're terrified. Perfect.
And then the whole advert's about showing you the power of your masculinity once
yeah,
you take this Viagra.
yeah,
Starts off wow, and then you roar through fear,
yeah.
a respect of
Yeah.
fear and love.
Okay,
That would be my dream.
that's a good dream.
So you've also been watching a lot of big hit cinema,
A lot of blockbusters.
a lot of big blockbusters.
A lot of blocky bees,
Yeah.
as we call them in the industry. And one of those ones has been Pirates of the Caribbean.
How many of them have you watched?
All of them. Every single one.
Okay.
And we've had conversation about Pirates of the Caribbean off air. You can't hear everything. Subscribe to the Patreon. We forgot to mention this.
Shit, yeah.
subscribe
Subscribe to Patreon, please.
But so we have...
Subscribe to the Patreon because the quicker we can like fucking do this full time, it will just be easier. For
You get more
guys.
podcasts as well.
Yeah, easy.
do
Do
two-
2 a week.
two a week.
Do this fucking 4 a week.
4.
Mate. What else would we be doing?
Yeah.
You know?
But so we've discussed it off air a couple of times. And the best thing about the Pirates of the Caribbean films is how up their own arse they are. It is the length of time that they think they can subject people to these narratives and characters is ludicrous.
Well, because it's interesting, because you told me about this bit about Pirates of the Caribbean, and it represents quite one thing that people slag off mainstream cinema at the moment, and a lot of it is shite. But one thing that I do appreciate is that finally, like trashy blockbusters have realised the length of time. If you look back at old films, if you look from the late 90s till the end of the 2010s. Blockbusters just took the fucking piss. 3 hours, 2 hours 50. No, I think.
What are some examples?
Well, one which is
just trying to remember them.
a fascinating film, which I haven't seen. I've only seen one scene from it. It's a romantic drama. It's got Brad Pitt in it, and it seems to be like a fairly trashy romantic drama.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours and 10 minutes,
Holy shit.
and it's a Hollywood
For a
film.
rom-com.
It's a romantic drama,
Okay.
but
Okay.
it's ludicrous.
Well,
And there's-
Benjamin Button's like 4 hours.
Yeah, but that's kind of like that's a big director doing it. But
Yeah.
it's like
Who
when I saw
directed Benjamin Button?
Fincher, David Fincher.
Was it?
Yeah.
No shit.
And so like when I saw Pirates of the Caribbean in the cinema, this was the Pirates of the Caribbean 3 got a lot of flack, and I remember that in the discourse, even though I was young.
I went
and
to the cinema to see Pirates.
I saw it in the cinema. There was an intermission.
There was an intermission.
Okay, intermissions. What are you? It's a film about pirates. It's not fucking Space Odyssey.
Well, I believe that they used to do that back in the day, regardless of how long the film was. But I guess they
Not
tend to be-
regardless.
I guess they tend to be a lot longer.
So Space Odyssey has an intermission,
Yeah.
and that intermission was placed perfectly as like just as they introduced narrative conflict in what seemed
Yeah.
like a kind of incoherent art house film, they'd cut to intermission. And
Pirates of the Caribbean.
that adds to part of it. The intermission in Pirates of the Caribbean is just someone just halfway through saying, go for a piss.
Yeah.
It's like,
I guess
intermissions are like, I don't mind
I guess
intermissions as the cinematic experience if it's like a true like artistic feast, but if it's a pirate film,
Yeah.
it's like doing the Twilight films, making them 3 hours.
It's
and then-
obnoxious.
It's fucking taking
It's
the
like,
piss.
guys, you need a break.
Yeah, but
Because
after,
you have no idea what's about to hit you
after
this.
Pirates of the Caribbean: The World's End, which is when it really, that is when Hollywood stopped. That was the
Can I
last
just say,
really long film.
The only other intermission I've experienced was when I went to Wales on holiday, and I think they didn't get the memo that we've all stopped doing intermissions.
yeah.
And we went and watched Shrek the Third. We went and watched Shrek the Third, and it was like they just, I don't know, they probably got out of that Hollywood place or whatever they do, and they're all trotting along, and everyone's there, and then suddenly the curtains go down. It's been like an hour. The curtains go down, and I look out like, what please, that can't be the end of the film.
You're sitting there with your candy.
Yeah, I was sitting there, I've got half of my popcorn left. The minstrels haven't even been touched yet. And these two chumps walk out offering ice cream. I said, what's, and then we just kind of put it down to that's what they do in Wales. So any Welsh listeners, do you still have intermissions in cinemas?
Well, it's kind of like an old school way.
It was a kind of an
it's
old
like
school
quite
cinema.
cute.
But don't know if it's Shrek the Third an hour in. Because the break doesn't become a break, it just becomes an annoyance.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was the end for sure. But watching Pirates of the Caribbean back, how do they stand up as films?
So I remember it was always, the second one is the best one, Dead Man's Chest.
Okay, sure.
And because that's the bit, I think, because the thing that I'd always remember about Pirates of the Caribbean is when they go on that island and Johnny Depp gets heralded as that king and he's the eyes thing, you know, that eye shot when he opens his eyelids and then they fight and they're running away. That's still great.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that thoroughly. I ended up falling asleep for the last 20% of all of the films. I never saw all the film.
Oh,
all the way
I haven't
through.
seen all. No.
No,
They're not meant to be. They assume you sleep.
You're
for
meant
like
to drift off.
There's like a 30-minute period, but then
there's like 10 minutes in the middle and then 20 minutes at the end.
What's an interesting artistic choice by the director is making it so long and boring that they imagine when you're in a dark, warm room that any person who's not like a serial killer or a psychopath, anyone who has a remote form of empathy or understanding of humanity,
a capacity for feeling,
feelings, like, which most people do, you're going to drift off.
Yeah.
But it means that because when you're in a cinema, you never have a good sleep when you fall asleep during a film. It becomes like a fever dream.
Yeah.
So that's why what I think did add to the experience of which is the only way to properly view the film as the director wants it, is you view that last ridiculous battle scene.
Yeah.
That like 40-minute exhausting period. You're meant to view that coming in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
And it adds a psychedelic.
It does. And it's the
anxiety.
It's the director challenging you to kind of experience half of the story within your own mind.
Yeah, exactly. So but it's quite an interesting style of filmmaking, which, like, though I think it's too long, it is interesting for the history of cinema.
Yeah.
Is when you have that final battle scene when it's like it's a 4-hour pirate film
And
like
95% of the audience are asleep.
You're like, okay, there's a boat, they're fighting. Then you come back, you have a dream about your childhood, and then you come back like, Dad, and you see Jack Sparrow, and then so someone gets shot, someone dies, you drift off again, and that is what is like. It's not fun, but it's interesting artistically.
Yeah, and absolutely.
Yeah.
But so the who is insufferable in it is Will Turner.
Okay,
he's the most
Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom. He's the most insufferable character I've come across in my blockbuster journeys.
Okay, yeah.
Because he's just the epitome of he's like a virtue signaler.
Sure.
And he swashbuckles around.
He swashbuckles, yeah.
And it's the voice, and everything is he's acting in Victorian theatre.
Sure.
And everything is said with such aggressive clarity in his linguistics, and everything he says is then so fucking moral. It's like, mate, he never wants to get down and dirty. What I feel they've done...
Is that not the writing? What are you,
it's the writing.
Let's
it's all of it.
Let's
it's
keep
all
on
of
the performance.
It's all
because it's the writing. Is that how much is that his fault?
No. It's not all his fault.
Okay.
But the performance is it induces vomit.
Sure.
And not just regular acid reflux vomit, proper.
Which adds to the fever dream because you vomited, you're falling asleep, and it makes it even more psychedelic.
Exactly. And then you're choking, and the ambulance comes. But he. So it's. I think what they tried to do is because they had a character such as Captain Jack Sparrow, you know, the delinquent, the deviant, but the cheeky one who does it with a smile and everyone loves.
I mean, a great performance.
Oh, fantastic! It's brilliant.
Yeah, really.
Oh yeah, and
he got nominated for an Oscar for the first.
I know. Second one was it the first?
I think it was the first.
Okay.
Rightly
so.
Yeah.
He fucking kills it. But you realise they got in that cash cow after the first one, because then all particularly the ones after the third, where Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom don't sign up for it, they're out of it. So they bring in Penelope Cruz.
Yeah,
and you can see that all of the franchise after that is literally just backing on Jack Sparrow to kind of do it, and then he kind of stopped doing it. Then
that's modern cinema, which is like you've got something that you know will make money because chumps will go see it.
That's me.
And you've got a character who sells, and then but that was an interesting period, because it was like when was the Pirates of the Caribbean craze was in the first two was when it was really big. When was the Twilight series? Because it was like there was I don't know. So there was like a period. Remember when everyone was obsessed with vampires?
Yeah,
and it was around the Twilight thing. That was like part of the young adult fiction things. Then everyone was obsessed with pirates. I don't know which one came first.
I think
second.
Vampires came after.
Vampires came after. So it was pirates then vampires, and it was like off the back of Pirates of the Caribbean. I think there was other pirate films. There was Master and Commander and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
So like naval battle stuff.
Yeah.
And then off Twilight there was loads of vampire stuff. But have we had any sort of focus like that in pop culture since?
I think
we've gone pirates, we've gone vampires. Do we have anything like that? We've got, I mean, superheroes. But
superheroes have been, have taken over again.
Yeah.
I guess at the back of Marvel films.
Yeah.
Because there's I guess
superheroes is the next one.
It is superheroes.
Yeah.
Even though that's been around for ages, I feel like they've really got invigorated.
Yeah, but it wasn't
maybe
like
since
an obsession.
Nolan did Batman.
I think so, yeah.
But then you get the self-reflexive, satirical superhero films, like Deadpool and The Boys.
Well, it's completely. It's like the idea of superheroes has been covered from every angle.
Yeah,
you've got Art House, you've got Oscar.
Now let's take the piss out of it.
Yeah. You've got let's take the piss. Let's do.
Yeah.
But it's because no one's everyone can pirate films, so no one wants to go to the cinema. So the reason they would be for like a superhero flick.
So there is no such thing as true art. Everything's for cash.
Okay. Now we've got the short introduction out of the way.
Now we've warmed you up.
Yeah.
How long have we been going?
Only 40 minutes, it's fine.
40?
Yeah.
Shit.
It really feels like Pirates of the Caribbean, where the beginning is like 2 hours.
Yeah, true.
But you know, this is a formal homage to the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, which is making things far longer than they should be. So, you know, we've also had to wait 10 days to even talk about it, and now we've pushed it another 40 minutes.
Yeah. I think we've just been avoiding it, really.
But so the Capitol, I don't know what it's been called now.
Capitol riots.
The Capitol riots, I guess that's a way.
Putsch.
Because without saying, because adding attack or putsch, that adds too many moral values. I wish there was like a...
Yeah.
We saw that...
The incident.
The Capitol incident. We saw that literally just after we recorded the last one, and we watched it live with the news.
We were kicking
it was
back,
fun.
relaxing.
It was a fun one.
Yeah.
But it has been a truly fascinating news event for many reasons, because there's so many things going on, and it sort of embellishes a lot of the ideas I already had about all the political factions, and a lot of them have shown the worst sides of themselves, both on the left and the right. And I found the response really interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
from who?
Response from everyone. I mean, the response from Trump's been interesting. I mean, it's hard to predict what he's going to do,
but it was kind of expected.
The response from the establishment left, for sure, has been really interesting. Obviously there was a... Do you think Trump incited the riot?
I think, for all intents and purposes, he did, yeah.
Do you think he did it knowingly and purposely?
No, I don't think he knew the extent that it would come to fruition.
Yeah, and then I guess the kind of the main talking points is it was absolutely mad seeing these sort of neckbeard incels raid the Capitol. And like the last people to raid the Capitol were the British in 1814. And it is funny.
Someone's done the research before the pod.
Yes. But it is funny how, you know, these are serious historical events that will be, you know, it's coronavirus, Brexit, Trump, all these things will be talked about for a long time afterwards, but we're in the middle of them, so we can't even view them historically. This is a huge historical event, and there's something hilarious to me about the nature of the people who are
You're
doing
in there
it.
with blokes with t-shirts saying "Pull my finger" on it.
Pull my finger. They're like the merch, just the way they're
Yeah.
dressed. They look like fucking morons.
It's the revolt of the novelty t-shirts, and that's always the best way to summarize the.
And so there's obviously a lot of people who are furious about how Black Lives Matter obviously had been shut down, and they were pretty much allowed to walk straight into the Capitol.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a fair point. Like, it was, I guess, suspiciously
So the thing
easy.
that I read up, because I remember when that was when we were watching it live and it was going off. It was firstly like it was shocking the lack of security that was on there. So then at the Capitol that allowed them to actually get in. So then I think the big scandal in there is that they knew that there was going to be these people marching on the Capitol. And there was an equivalent Black Lives Matter march, and the National Guard wasn't even deployed until they basically started breaching the barricades.
yes.
So it was handled in a very different way.
It was handled a very different way. I do agree that does show a certain double standard, but not as much as people on the left are saying. Because there's obviously that image of all the army soldiers standing outside the Lincoln Memorial, and then the lack of here. I think no one expected that this was the first true right wing protest that had like escalated after the whole thing. They'd been relatively quiet basically until this moment.
Other than maybe anti-vaxxers,
anti-vaxxers. I guess the response. I don't think it was shocking that there wasn't more security. I was shocked how long it took for proper security to react. That was what was weird.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as comparable as people think, because the people were standing outside the Lincoln Monument because Black Lives Matter, the riots were happening all over the country. They were destroying property. They were just destroying statues. It does sort of make sense that the state would defend statues, because it had been clear that it was clear when a Black Lives Matter riot happens in Washington, there's a genuine
part of the
threat.
tactics were
No one really expected this. Even the most cynical leftists did not expect them to. And
it's poor planning.
Yeah.
If anything, it might not necessarily attest to like a clear example of institutional racism. There are many more.
Yeah.
But it's more that why wouldn't they put them in there? Why wouldn't they put the appropriate security measures in there?
For sure. And it is shocking. It is weird, but I don't think it's as shocking as some people say, because I don't think if you look at it from like the state's perspective, where their main thing is trying to protect you know, buildings, statues and monuments. What is interesting about fascists is that they're very respectful of property.
Yeah.
Property is a big part of fascism. You know, they really believe in property deeply.
Symbols.
The left-wing people rioting are renters who, you know, part of the characteristics of our young generation is that we don't own anything. So property can't mean as much to us because we are not involved. And especially for black people in America who don't own anything, don't hold positions of power as much, like, it's understandable where their disregard for property comes from.
Yeah.
But you had Trump supporters break into the Capitol.
Landowners.
With complete... Well, they were working class. I don't know how much, but probably landowners in the small states they come from. But they broke in and they walked around like it was a museum. Like they threw a couple of Nancy Pelosi's papers everywhere.
Yeah,
they broke a window.
What you're just doing is disorganizing her day.
Disorganizing her day. None of that. They were taking pictures of statues.
Yeah,
no, like if Black Lives Matter was in there, they would have ransacked a lot more. You can see it. Like the Churchill statue got racist spray painted on it. If they were in the Capitol, that would be a far more damaging
because
mob.
of the nature of the movement.
Because of the nature of the movement.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost partly why it was interesting. But
I think but then, all right, which I could agree with. But then also, so when you're assessing a threat to the Capitol's security, I don't think they're going to be putting that much attention into the idea that these people have respect for the place that they're going to enter. There should obviously be there as people in charge of the security of the Capitol would obviously think we definitely can't let them get in here. It's like I don't think they'll be thinking it's as much in proportion as, well, if it was Black Lives Matter, then they're going to trash the place, versus, if they get in, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. Getting in is the end of the world. So I think that's
it
where
must be. If you're security of any place,
it's the worst thing. So I think it doesn't really matter as much how they behaved in there. I think that was
but that's the mindset of kind of security guards, but it's about.
But does
the-
that not
the
show a bit
pre-planning.
of... Yeah, exactly. And the pre-planning, I think, does show some racism because although that's true, and that I think the difference between the two movements would mean that there would be more destruction of property because of the nature of what the Black Lives Matter is standing for, and a more kind of genuine anti-establishment figure than Trump supporters.
Yeah.
But if the fact that there wasn't a proper security should just be thinking about not letting people in the building, and the fact that they didn't get enough security to make that happen versus when Black Lives Matter is happening. I get Black Lives Matter is more militant, but the fact that they didn't have enough people to stop them getting in the building, what do you think that says?
I agree. No, I completely agree with that. There's definitely elements of it. There's a double standard for sure. But I just don't think the way that some people have been talking about it. I mean, AOC, who I've had issues with in some ways, which is, a podcaster I like, did make this point quite well, which is like, I do like AOC's politics, like her grassroots socialist background, but her style is what I think is ruining the left because it's this constant appeals to empathy, which is something that's really hard to dissent against because it seems this unassailable thing.
Yeah.
She said half the house could have died. And I think one thing we said when we were watching this, we got really excited, but ultimately it was an anticlimax.
Yeah,
because
it was.
not really much happened.
Yeah. Because it was hilarious to watch because it was so much kind of fever going into actually getting in, and as soon as they got in, they didn't know what to do with it.
They didn't know what to do because they hadn't planned to get in because it was sort of like, I'm not sure if their plan was even to get in.
You can't expect to just arrive into the building.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a nice metaphor for the whole Trump presidency.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great. Fuck, that's good.
Oops,
that's nice.
My bad. As in, there's been so much fever in terms of get in, and then
surprising lack of resistance to getting in,
and the surprising lack of resistance, and then suddenly when you're in there, no one's really telling you to get out, and you're just kind of wandering around looking at paintings,
and the thing about
and
Trump,
not destroying anything,
and the thing about Trump, which is that. Like, obviously, we don't slag Trump off as much as the left do, like a lot of the liberals do, because the main thing with Trump, I do think he's fucking scum, and he is an awful president, but he's such an ineffective politician that he has caused less damage than definitely Bush, and arguably Obama. Like, obviously, that's a bit of a tough take. I mean by foreign policy for like
but let's not go off foreign because they're like Trump.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's a better I think Obama has a better intentions as a better person. But if you look for like stone cold facts of like damage done, loads of damage done. It's
very easy, of course, and like this is because it's America.
Trump didn't really do it. He just
because he came in a situation where the troops were getting out of Afghanistan, so he came in a position where it was a lot more easier in the history of time for him to actually get them out.
But if you look through American history, it's been a through line of them meddling in foreign affairs.
Yeah,
and there's no reason why there's
Iran.
loads of
he did Iran.
There's Iran. Like there's loads of periods where
but Trump did Iran.
Yeah, but Trump there was no war with Iran.
Yeah, well, maybe luckily, but it was an act of aggression. There was no occupation, but I also feel like we're getting to that time where there is just no politician is ever going to have a suitable enough public backing to do enough of foreign intervention.
Maybe
to the extent of Iraq.
I've done quite a lot of research on like the Vietnam War, and that was the biggest foreign disaster that America's ever had.
Yeah.
And it seems like after what happened there, it would be the biggest mandate for against war, and it was. There was a 1 million person march against Iraq. Like there was no public. It wasn't much of a mandate to go in Iraq, both in the UK and US, but they still pushed it through. Like. It is interesting that basically, I'm not defending Trump at all as a person. I'm just saying his narcissism and his ineffectiveness as an actual politician to get things done.
But
he didn't build the wall. He pulled out the Paris Agreement.
Some of the wall being built? Some of it has.
But it was already there.
But
the wall was already there.
There was some.
There was fences.
Yeah, but he's kind of.
But he said like the big wall.
He built some wall, I think.
Not that
I just don't. That was what I have no idea.
That was kind of his big issue.
It was his big issue.
And so that my point is, it's like he's vulgar. He's completely lost a lot of value and decency to the idea of the office of America. He's stoked divisions more than I've seen pretty much any president ever do. But it's cold, hard, actual policy in effect. He hasn't done much, and it really proves how similar not his political style is, but his economic policy is to liberals, and how it yo-yos between like a big smiley face and a big angry face. But fundamentally, not that much changes.
Well, it's all fart and no poo.
It's all fart and no poo.
Which is what our politics is becoming, and that's why it's such a perfect indication.
Well,
of
liberals
who
are
we
just
are.
a pure fart.
Yeah, but that's what. But Trump is as well, and because that's why. That's why, like, if we're assessing him as a president or whatever, is that, as you say, almost all of his politics has been done on Twitter and in the media, in social media, and in just like in the ether of ideas and words rather than actual politics. And that's been a trend that we've been going on steadily for a long time. And I think with this, and that's kind of the similar thing to Johnson and Brexit. There are some little inclinations of what's happening where our politics has been so dominated by ideas of things rather than what actually gets done.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. And that's why that's such a perfect way for his presidency to end, at this Capitol riot, of people storming the gates and then just walking around like a museum.
Yeah. But I heard on a podcast as well, which I think is a pretty interesting view, is it's like, who are the big winners? The big winners are the DNC, are like the establishment Democrats. This is a dream for them. They can say all they like about how shocked and horror they are. Yeah. This is a dream scenario.
What do you think about the impeachment stuff?
Well, we'll get onto it in a second, but this is like, this is linked, but it's like, the person who's won most out of this is going to be Biden and Biden's camp. This is a dream scenario because Trump his speech, Pence,
pathetic.
Pence has come out against Trump. People have turned his back on it. It's like America. It's proved everything that liberal Democrats had been like pushing, saying this is what Trump is. And then the impeachment, even though he's going to go in 8 days. This impeachment is a pure consolidation of power for Democrats, and there's an argument to be said. I mean, this is very conspiracy theory
because it delegitimizes the whole 4 years
completely, and it's a dream scenario, and it's a disaster for Trump.
Other than it might also mean that he can't run again.
Yeah, this is honestly, this is why Democrats are calling it the second 9/11, which is ludicrous.
I haven't seen that.
No, I've seen people like it's in the
second 9/11.
They're saying it's that serious.
The
5 people died.
9/11.
It wasn't as big as it could have been.
What the fuck?
And once again, it's a lot. It's fart no poo. Like 9/11 was a lot of poo.
It's a load of shit. Because the whole
lack of.
I think the lack of lack of shit. But the whole point is, I think what they're probably trying to go for with that is, there's this whole issue around terrorism, and a big thing in like terrorist studies or whatever is like there's a very biased definition of what terrorism is. Yeah. So it's always kind of more towards an ethnic minority, or if it's for an ideological basis. But the pure definition of terrorism is any kind of act of violence on a mass scale.
Sure.
So I think what they're going for is like calling it domestic terrorists is what it is. It's an act of domestic terrorism in a sense.
But Black Lives Matter isn't.
Yeah, no, of course, exactly. And it's one of the things, is how you define it. Yeah. Now,
Mandela technically was a terrorist.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a value judgment.
Exactly. But that's the whole thing about calling it terrorism.
Yeah.
Is that. Actually, because I want to talk about the fact that what struck me when we were looking at the scenes unfold with shock and horror, it wasn't really shock and horror. It was like, we really hope that keeps going.
We were like, come on, we need at least,
because we missed it by an hour or so. Yeah. And they're all just standing around. We're like, can we make sure?
And they're like repeating the news bits. It's like, we need some more shit.
Give me some more. Can someone just like run a jump? Can
someone
off a building?
big die? Someone I know.
Yeah. Because that was before, actually, the sensationalization of the news thing was something I think we kind of saw when we were watching it. We were watching live when Trump came on and said he said the speech saying we love you and all that stuff, but he said the message was go home.
Yeah. And
so we watched that speech live, and then he kind of went back to the scenes that were unfolding at the Capitol, and then on the ticker underneath on the news, it was saying Trump says we love you to supporters, and that is an important thing to analyze. The fact that let's talk about so the difference between Black Lives Matter and Trump's wars. Of course, that's an important thing.
There's a difference between
the
policing, but there's also a difference between how the media genuinely covered
it. Of course, we need to talk about the fact, like the speech that he was saying. But at the time when there were people still in the fucking building to then have as the headline for his speech, Trump says, "We love you," whatever. Let's focus on that after. He did say, "Get out."
Yeah, and
he said, "Leave."
the BBC are like...
They're under there.
Yeah.
BBC meant to be impartial people. It's like, because obviously this should be trying to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah.
But it was that perfect realization. We're sitting there watching it and we want some drama. We were kind of enjoying the drama of it, wanting it to go on. And then you see then Trump says, "We love you," etc., etc. You think, shit, this could keep going.
Yeah.
But what it actually does is, because the media have a responsibility of communication, because they're somewhat going to be communicating Trump's message to the people who are inside the building.
Yeah.
So then the fact that they don't go, "Trump says go home," just at that point shows that they really have no regard.
Well, this is the thing I was saying, slightly conspiracy, but it's like, okay, if you think about it, there wasn't a lot of state backing, but because this is such a big win for the DNC, there's an argument to be said,
They wanted it to escalate.
They wanted it to escalate to a certain extent. And I'm not doubling down on this, but it is interesting to think about, which is people love to say that it's Trump being the president and that's why they let... No one wants to let the people in the Capitol in.
Yeah.
But the people who kind of maybe do is, in a way, the DNC, and because that's the people who are going to benefit from it the most. If you escalate it and make it as big an issue as possible, if it becomes as close to the second 9/11 as possible, that is the big... Then you can finally get the dream they've wanted for the whole of his presidency, which is a symbolic impeachment.
And you very rarely get to blame such an event on a specific politician and specific political party.
And then you can do all that liberal disgust of how awful, and then finally get it all out. But the terrifying thing that came out of it, which has been fascinating to see, so-called leftists support, is a sitting president getting banned from Twitter. He is escalating violence, and he is a complete wild dog who stokes divisions. I'm not going to defend him, but just showing how Silicon Valley flex their muscles against Washington basically shows where the power shifted. Big tech, which is the big fear of what's going to be this century.
Big thoughts.
Boys
gone wild.
Big tech is going to be this century. The unaccountable power of tech, because no matter how bad Trump is and how bad the state is, he was voted in by people. There was a 4-year election where he did a bad job. He was voted out. The media, he's constantly held to account. But then these tech companies that are more powerful, maybe not than the American state, maybe they are, but definitely more than most countries in the world.
In theory, at the moment, they are.
They've just shown. He tried to get on that Parler app, which is a different app, and they destroyed the app. They fired the CEO. Gone. It just shows being able to silence literally a sitting democratically voted president by big tech.
Because I think what that debate goes into is in the difference. So, when we're talking about policing speech and the difference between free speech versus a hate crime. So I think the key shift of power there is places like Twitter have the power to decide what is a hate crime and what isn't. So you can be banned. I guess you'll be banned for saying something derogatory or anything that incites violence. So when we're talking about a politician, it's about the conspiracy, using that word in that way, to incite violence. And so Twitter will then make the decision if they believe, the key being they, Twitter, believe that Trump is inciting a riot, then they'll ban it.
Yeah.
And which is, but it has really important implications for if there was going to be, a good revolution against capitalism and against the establishment.
These are the things. It's as much as you like to pick and choose, a woman was shot by a police officer and died.
4 people died.
4 people died, but I think the specifics... I don't know the specifics of the death of the other ones, but I do know that at least one was shot by a police officer and died because of it. I've seen people on the left celebrate that. And it's you do need to realise that no matter how much you disagree with each other, it's not having any principles or values of what is bad. A police officer shooting a protester and killing them, you kind of have to have a strong principle on it.
Yeah.
If your whole thing has been these corrupt policemen are killing protesters and stuff. It is kind of grotesque just seeing the way that they're well, she's not on our side, so it's good.
And also if you're trying to be
died.
from the party that is kind of suggesting, if you're trying to be from, left-wing generally, you think there should be more empathy in these situations. Traditionally, it's been the side of caring about people and not wanting the same kind of principles to be... kind of put on everyone that has been put on at the moment. So when you're just like celebrating the death of someone, it's not, it reeks of hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's a kind of a strange world. Do we want to wrap it up?
We'll wrap it up. I think we can carry on with this conversation.
Because there's something that I found. So I thought immediately about America's gun laws with this, because in the Constitution, one of the main, I think it is the only argument in the Constitution of why citizens have a right to bear arms.
Surely, yeah.
Surely, it is
surely it's the only logical one that could.
No. But so back in that time, there's nothing about, obviously, like there would be, if you were to entertain the gun rights advocates for 1 second, there would be better arguments for personal protection, etc. But the thing that's in the Constitution, which gun advocates wholly hark back to, the Constitution, is that it is the right to overthrow a tyrannical government. So like that, I thought most of with Trump supporters being like an aggressively kind of pro guns and everything, and there's something interesting. I don't know. There was something I thought about, like if everyone fucking had guns in there, which they could have done. That could have been a fucking massacre.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just a really interesting part of it, how the kind of the intersection between, because it was the first almost attempt at a coup. I know it wasn't ever going to be a coup, but that kind of first attempt at a genuine revolution. Do you know what I mean? It seems such an alien concept to us, the idea of a revolution at all, completely. And then suddenly people are in the Capitol. Do you know what I mean? There's just something.
Well, I think this is a perfect example. It's like when you look at history. When you look at, I recently watched a documentary on the Russian Revolution. You look at the French Revolution. You look at these kind of like iconic revolutions that were successful in so far as they overthrew a government, and they happen all the time. They happen in South America. They happen in other states. They just haven't happened in the West for a long time. We had the English Civil War here. These revolutions that are like change history forever. It is interesting that our closest we come to a sort of revolution now, it comes from that sort of the problem of the modern age, which is that sort of end of history argument where we don't really, we know that the system doesn't work, but we don't really have any idea of what can replace it, because it's so entrenched in us, and the news is so confusing, everything is so fractured that we can't get a collective consciousness of what a world after the current system would be. So you break through into the Capitol, and then you don't know what the fuck to do
with it. And
that was the perfect example of like that is what is the problem with the modern revolution. Is that we don't know where we're going. We probably could get into the Capitol, but then what? No one has any idea what to do. But the big fear thing, which is I really am shocked by some people on the left who are like supporting this big tech takeover, because it is terrifying that they are so unaccountable. They don't get voted in. They know more than the NSA probably. There's such little accountability. They're so powerful.
Because as we were saying, it stops the ability. Well, it's they have the determination of what is a good revolution in inverted commas and what is a bad revolution, and the power that they then have is to determine. It's always, because it's meant to be, the whole idea of social media is a democratic it kind of distills democratic values across, because people can voice their own opinions on things, and we can have a more kind of a broader discourse, which we kind of know isn't the truth from all the documentaries we've seen, etc., and how it actually works to mostly about advertising and kind of for the benefit of profit for individual companies. But then these kind of things just show that it's not just capitalist power, it's also political power of the choice of which values and ideas have the right to make a noise in the real world and which don't.
And it's like, so obviously the big tech's agenda is a liberal agenda. If you look at, it's in San Francisco, it's in the Silicon Valley, it's in that sort of area. If you look at anyone who has power in tech, they have very liberal values, very metropolitan, very, basically let's keep economics the same, but let's push left-wing social values. That is what the establishment is on the tech side. And though we've, done a lot where we're trying to basically say, look at it from a different angle, where it's like the left has responded badly, to criticize the right a bit more, the thing that is kind of shocking about this one is it's like, the voter fraud thing is so absurd. It's so absurd. I'm surprised that the left, something that I do think they had complete rights to do, have not been more aggressive on saying, what the fuck are you talking about?
What's going on?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What more do you want to see to prove this is voter fraud?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? And then you see all these people who, the conspiracy theories, the QAnon saying this, the vote was stolen. There's not even a shred. I haven't even seen an argument. And maybe that's because of the liberal media prism. But I've looked and I haven't even seen. It's so emotive. It's so unbased in it. I'm like,
there's some. I mean, like, you've still got a bit of
What?
like traditional satire, like Seth Meyers.
No. What is the voter fraud?
The evidence. There's none.
Literally,
Yeah,
none.
no, there's none.
The reason that they were pushing for this is where it comes from. This is where the anger's come from. Is fully based in the idea that the election was stolen, and it's such an absurd claim.
Yeah.
That's so unbased in reality that it's just like there's no way you could respect these people.
Absolutely, and it seems like it is. I get exactly your point of the fact that the problem is with it is that it needs to go through the proper legal parameters to actually get denied on it, and it's like I think it's something like 40 or 60 court cases he's had dismissed.
Yeah,
which you'd think would be the be all and end all of it, but the point is now we're not living in a time when reality is important. The idea is important.
Yeah.
If Trump keeps repeating the same terminology that the vote has been stolen, then people will believe it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter how many legal proceedings it goes through, because the legal proceedings are just another expression of the establishment who are also trying to steal the vote from him.
Yeah, and it's I think my
he's trying to be a martyr.
My view on how the left should. I think Biden in his speech to say shouldn't have kept pushing for the dignity of the office, which is the campaign thing was
get down and dirty.
Return dignity. He should be like, Trump, mate, what the fuck are you talking about? Or like, in presidential terms, are you mental?
Yeah.
I wish there was more of that. What are you talking about, you moron? Like, I wish there was more of that, because that is something that was completely justified for him to say. Like, are you kidding me? There's literally no evidence, you fucking
The thing is, because he has to do the presidential office thing, because he can't get into that kind of like linguistic argument with him, because Trump does it better than he does.
It's true, and also I think I would, looking at how the security guards did, obviously it's terrifying for a lot of the security guards, but I really feel like someone shouting or being like, get the fuck out, get out of here, what are you doing? I think, for me, if I was walking in, if I was strongly, I think that might have scared me a little bit, but there was just a lack of even I think just a big booming voice might have actually.
Maybe if the voice of God himself came down, open from the heavens, and told everyone to just pack it in, chill out, go home, you're not going to do anything. And the reality, if you get in, all you're going to do is maybe sit at the fucking lectern, have a look at the paintings, or just pick up something. Yeah, I mean, it's an experience.
It's a pretty cool photo, to be fair.
Yeah, you got to give them that. They've got some mad #grams out of it.
Okay, I think we can leave it there. You got anything else to say?
No, I think we're good on that.
I think we're good on that. All right. So our final point is that the election was stolen, and
Trump is the rightful winner.
Trump is the rightful winner, and we should try and do something like that here.
Yeah.
Let's start. Let's get into Westminster.
But let's not storm Westminster. Let's storm like St Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah. Just even more pointless.
Yeah. Just got to go in there and be like,
we're in. Oh.
The election was rigged.
There's a couple of just like,
and then just have a look around.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I didn't know Shakespeare was buried. See you next week, guys.